Prince Zhao of the Dragon Kingdom was just that guy with all the aura. The people loved him, and he was seen as someone who brought hope and light to the Earth realm. Due to this, he was chosen by the gods to lead the 11 Kingdom Alliance to defeat Quiba, a demon that appeared occasionally with the aim to destroy everything. His glory quickly ended when he learned that the gods used the emblem system to keep all sentient beings on Earth subjugated. To prevent Zhao from exposing them, they labeled him as disrespectful and blinded him as punishment. Zhao's older brother named Bai took this as the perfect opportunity to take over and become king of the Dragon Kingdom. The prince was stunned by his brother's betrayal to side with the gods. The two siblings had an epic spear duel, and Zhao was able to keep up despite his clear disadvantage. However, Bai came out the victor with a slice to Zhao's cheek, but out of love for his brother, the new king decided to banish him to Lingshan. This was a province where the most hopeless people on Earth gathered. Zhao was to never reveal his identity, and it would be announced to the people that he lost his life due to illness. He accepted his fate and left. Over the next 30 years, Bai sent assassins to take out his brother, but Zhao defeated them and made a name for himself in Lingshan. An older Zhao entered the village square, but everyone was on edge around him. Some kids ran around with one holding a drink. He accidentally spilt it on the blind prince after he tripped. Everyone gasped, probably expecting their world to end. However, Zhao wiped himself as he stated that everything was okay. The kids' mother berated them and pulled them away. The blind prince was called over by the Tufa, who was the blacksmith. He showed Zhao some top-quality iron which could be used to fix his broken spear tip. He also informed him of the bandits who looked like they wanted to target him because he's blind. Zhao paid for the material and left his spear behind. He went out of the village and pretended to pick some fruits. The criminals tried to take him out by throwing a sword, but he dodged it. Zhao tried to talk them out of attacking him, but the trio dashed at him simultaneously. He retrieved the blade and blocked their attack. He released his power and swiftly cut them down. He later buried the men along with all the other fools who tried to take advantage of a poor blind man. The prince arrived at his secluded home to find his spear repaired by Datufa. As he settled down for the evening, he noticed that the fruit bowl he was preparing was replaced with a fish. Zhao got on high alert and quickly swung his spear, but all he cut was air. He wondered if his older brother had finally found someone strong enough to eliminate him. Zhao tensely sat there waiting for the enemy to attack, but he was rather hugged by a playful boy who easily bypassed his defense. The child continued to visit and brought him food. One night an assassin tried to use the boy as cover to attack Zhao. He distorted the blind prince's senses with a device and closed in to finish him off, but the boy threw a melon at the attacker's head which eliminated the target. He started to feel guilty for taking the man's life, so Zhao took the responsibility for the action and thanked the kid for the help. He checked his attacker and found his own bounty poster. The following morning the boy helped him bury the assassin. The two sat to talk after, and Zhao decided to adopt the kid after learning that he didn't have anyone. He also named the boy Millen, which was inspired by a little beast in the forest that Zhao was never able to catch. The two lived together for a while, till one day the prince took Millen to a waterfall to teach him martial arts. He started by explaining that everything in their world is made up of chakra. People can manipulate the chakra within themselves and around to perform crazy feats. A mastery of this force is what allows Zhao to accurately perceive the world despite being blind. He demonstrated this by creating a chakra field which allowed Millen to walk across it. The boy followed the instruction and unleashed his own chakra. Zhao noticed a strange aura coming from Millen as he used his power. He returned home with the exhausted boy, but he was greeted by Datufa outside. The blacksmith informed him of the news that the Quiba has appeared. Zhao was not interested in such information, but Datufa explained that Bai had started to contact other kingdoms for another alliance to take out the demon. The blacksmith could get someone to track Bai's movement for 200 silver coins, but Zhao rejected the offer. He later put Millen to bed that night and recalled his older brother's promise that they would always stick together. He threw the pass that would allow him to return to the Dragon Kingdom into the fire, because that promise was a lie. Soon after, he sensed a dark power emanating from Millen. He rushed in and confirmed that the lad was the next Quiba. Zhao remembered a meeting he had with the gods regarding the Quiba. It was revealed that the demon's power is stimulated in extreme environments. He loses control of his consciousness when this power bursts out. The danger comes from the fact that the Quiba can't be communicated with, and the fact that his actions can't be predicted during this state. The only thing that can be done is to destroy him. Zhao hurried to the river and threw Millen in like he's releasing a caught fish. It looks like the boy survived because 10 years had passed since the first manifestation, and no one found himself in the same situation, but this time he was tied up with chains. He started to free himself using his Quiba powers. Meanwhile, in heaven, The gods confirmed the appearance of the Quiba when their special mirrors started to glow. It is revealed that it only reacted to the pulse frequency of the demon. Currently, the signal was faint, which meant either the Quiba was weak or he had learned how to hide his presence. Back in Lingshan, Milan burst out of the water and assumed to have passed his test, but Zhao informed him that he rather failed because he brute forced his escape. The whole point of the exercise was for him to control his power to find a key which will free him from the chain. Milan pled for another chance as they made their way back home, but they unknowingly passed someone losing their life to a new disease. The duo later went into the village to sell their snacks and drinks. No one haggled aggressively and made some decent sales. The villagers seemed to have a good opinion of him, but elsewhere in the market, a kid worriedly watched his mom suffer from the disease. No one later saw a father and daughter playing on a seesaw and was intrigued because the guy was very muscular and was playing gently with his daughter. Zhao used this as a teaching moment to show that the father was controlling his strength to not hurt the girl. The blind prince decided to give Nilan one more chance to see if he understood the concept. He made the Quiba cover his eyes and told him to get him a jug of a malt drink on his way home. Nilan thought it would be easy since all he had to do was use chakra to sense his surroundings. Zhao added another level of difficulty when he gave him a tree fruit to tend to while completing the task. The fruit was very fragile, and it would burst if there was the slightest fluctuations of chakra. Zhao showed that it can be done when he cushioned the fall of the fruit with his chakra, to Milan's amazement. The blind prince explained that this can only be achieved if he treated it like the most precious thing in his heart. This would mean he'd have to be in control of his power, instead of it being in control of him. Milan was inspired and determined to pass this time around, so that Zhao would keep his promise and tell him who his enemies were, so that he can help defeat them. Their interaction was witnessed by a masked man, who later tried to sneak up on Zhao as he arrived home, but the prince stopped him before he got closer. He quickly realized that it was Chung. The guy was one of the most loyal attendants when the prince was in the Dragon Kingdom. Chung asked Zhao to come with him because the plague had begun to spread. People believed that it was brought by the Quiba, and it didn't have a cure. Zhao found this amusing, but Chung didn't because it was highly contagious. The blind prince wanted to know more about the artifact that his subordinate wore. It was revealed to be a clear microscope that all envoys must wear it because it could detect the approximate range of the Quiba. Zhao got worried that Nilan would get exposed if he got close to Chung, but he suddenly started to get symptoms of the disease. This caused him to fall to his knees. Unfortunately for him, the leader of the village called Yahuya came with his men along with some infected people. Zhao accused him of being the one who caused this disease, but the chief denied this, stating that he would never bring ruin to his own lands. He came to ask Zhao for help, but really, he wanted to use the infected as fodder at the heavily guarded border while he escaped the plague. Zhao tried to fight, but the use of chakra energy only accelerates the infection, so he and Chung just played along and followed Yahuya. Before getting up, the blind prince left a mark on the ground. During that interval, Milan carefully made his way to the house while blindfolded. He controlled his power while he made sure not to burst the fruit. He got attacked by a creature, but he was saved by Soyi, who caused the drink to spill in the process. The Good Samaritan wanted to pay for the damages, but no one refused and was rather grateful for the save. The fruit didn't burst, so he still had a chance to pass. So he excused himself after noticing no one was busy. The Quiba finally arrived and frantically called to Zhao but got no response. He rushed around the house grounds and noticed the mark on the floor. He recalled that Zhao told him to escape and never return if he ever saw that mark. Some money was also left at a specific location for him. No one rather tracked the blind prince at the border and confronted Yahuya. Zhao noticed the spies from the Holy Alliance watching. He started to get more worried that the lad would be exposed if he fought. His fears came to reality when no one officially challenged Yahuya to a duel. The chief accepted. Zhao told no one not to let the fruit burst during the fight. The two clashed, but the lad was on the back foot till he recalled his lessons. He managed to control his power and performed a swift counter that blew Yahuya back. The chief was left with no other option but to concede. He was even willing to relinquish the chieftaincy, but no one rejected the title. He only wanted to save his adopted father and the infected. So he also witnessed the fight and was impressed. Zhao was glad that no one won the fight while controlling his power. He passed the lad since the fruit didn't burst. No one was just happy that Zhao's enemies are now his too. This meant that he can fight by his side to protect him. Yahuya and his men stood down and accepted Zhao as their leader. They took Zhao back to the hut to rest. Datufa later came to inform Milan of a Quiba and technology fanatic called Chihengsa. He also happened to be a notorious arms dealer. It is said that his area is the only place in Lingshan where the disease has not spread. Chung was inside giving the same report to Zhao, who made it clear that they shouldn't let Milan near Chihengsan. Back outside, Millen decided to go pay the fanatic a visit in hopes that he could get a cure. This was despite being told that the guy's cave is an impenetrable fortress. Meanwhile, Ji Heng-san obsessively worked on his research to find a way to defeat the Quiba. He paused for a minute to cheer up a crying child android. This was interrupted when his system alerted him to an intruder outside his cave. He excitedly watched Millen enter, and was confident that he will meet his demise due to the traps that he had set. The cave entrance got sealed as soon as he stepped in. Millen used chakra to sense the incoming dangers, and dodged like how we should be avoiding people with red flags. He used more of his powers when he almost got caught by a trap. Ji Hin-san's tech indicated that the Quiba was nearby. The fanatic assumed right as his lab door got destroyed. He intensely watched it, expecting a demon to appear. But Millen politely emerged behind him and excused himself. Ji Heng-san was surprised how normal the Quiba looked, but Millen was oblivious to his own identity. He rather assured the arms dealer that he had not come to steal his territory, but to ask for his help as he wanted the cure for the plague. He apologized for the damage he caused on his way to the lab, and promised to come back to fix it as soon as he delivered the cure to his people. Ji Heng-san was perplexed that the Quiba would come to him for the antidote when it was reported that he was the cause of it. Ji Heng-san confirmed that Millen didn't know he was the Quiba as they spoke. The arms dealer played along as he saw this as the perfect opportunity to take out the Quiba without a fight. He took a blood sample, stating that it was to help make the antidote, but he just wanted to confirm that he had the Quiba. While he was doing this, Millen saw the crying child android and interacted with it, but Ji Heng-san snatched it away and directed him to a chair and strapped him in. The fanatic injected Millen with a serum and prepared to eliminate him, but Yehuya and his men caught up and started to fire at the cave. The place started to crumble, so Millen broke free and managed to save Ji Heng-san at his own expense. But the lad pled with him to help his adopted father as he threw him out. This triggered him to have a flashback about his past. Ji Heng-san was always obsessed with defeating the Quiba and built weapons to achieve this goal. This caught the eyes of the authorities who wanted a demonstration, but he shut down the test when he realized that they also wanted to use the weapon against other nations. The official tried to force him to test the weapon, which caused an explosion. Ji Heng-san had his licenses revoked for his insolence. His wife was disappointed to see this, but his daughter was still supportive and believed that he could defeat the Quiba. One day she climbed one of his bookshelves while he was studying, and it fell on the girl and eliminated her. He created that android to help cope with his loss, as he blamed himself, and now it was destroyed. After interacting with the Quiba, he had realized this one was not a great evil that was going to destroy the world. He contemplated if he was actually the bad guy in this story. Yehuya scoffed at the fact that Millen's hero complex caused his death. He gave the order for them to apprehend Ji Heng-san so that they could take him back to make the antidote. As they did so, Millen popped out of the rebel holding the android to Ji Heng-san's shock. The Quiba asked the fanatic to make her laugh as he handed her back. He let Yehuya know that the arms dealer is his new friend, so they should back off. One day, Millen chilled at the riverside where he saw a lady at the opposite bank. The guy had a love-at-first-sight moment as soon as they locked eyes, so he rushed over to talk to her. Sadly, she had gone by the time he got to her location. All he found was some flowers on the floor. Meanwhile, Zhao thanked Ji Heng-san for helping them stop the spread of the plague. He reported that the disease was man-made, which was worrying. He also felt like they should tell Millen that he's the Quiba. The blind prince disagreed, and suspected that the culprit who spread the disease wanted to cause mayhem so that the Quiba would reveal himself. Zhao wanted to raise Millen to be a leader who had the ability to fight against the gods before they knew he was the Quiba. His current goal was to gather more men under their banner and expand their territory to the point of unifying all Lingshan. Ji Heng-san is okay with that if it benefits all of them who have been abandoned by their world. Millen came with a reason for them to start their crusade when he told them of the woman he fell for. He informed them that she disappeared in the direction of the next village downstream. Zhao decided that they would find Millen's future girl. This triggered the War of Love, where Zhao and his men conquered one village after another and turned the defeated into new allies. Within a short while, this was the reality for most villages. However, Millen still couldn't find the woman he met at the riverside. He started to feel like the war was unjust and wanted it to stop. Zhao revealed his desire to make him leader of Lingshan, but the lad was not interested. They finally arrived at their next village. The chief didn't want his place to turn to a war zone, so planned to surrender. However, Chief Kusita convinced him to pretend that they were surrendering to allow Zhao and his men into the village, but they would ambush them at night. Kusita promised to keep the other chief's people safe. The army were let in, and Millen looked at the maidens. He decided to pick a woman from that bunch because he was fed up with the fighting. Everyone was happy because that meant the war was over. The girl collapsed in his arms, so he took her to his quarters for her to rest. Zhao knew Milan's plan, but he still played along. Milan later went to get the woman some food when he heard her stomach rumble. She tried to attack him when he returned. He stopped her and apologized for picking her out like that. He explained his wish to end the fighting, which was because of his love. Milan just wanted her to pretend to be his woman for a while. He had the intention to let her go as soon as things calmed down. She agreed to stay for 3 days. The two started to have small talk as she ate, and no one learnt that she was from a village outside Lingshan. She came to observe some beautiful migrating fish and was captured. He decided to let her rest after the small talk. Meanwhile, Gusita wanted to still take out Zhao and his men, but the chief of the village didn't want to start a fight when the war had just came to an end. The following morning, no one paraded his woman to show everyone what they were fighting for, and they are all happy for him. The couple came across a test of strength in the streets. The girl showed interest in the game prize, which was a spirit beast egg. No one saw this and chose to participate, and even gave her the egg in advance because he was confident that he would win. He held the weight longer than the bigger guys, and took the victory. She was grateful for the gift. They proceeded and learned from an old lady that a wedding banquet is getting prepared for the new couple. Milan rushed to ask Zhao about it, and the prince let him know that he must marry his maiden after all the trouble they went through. He hatched a plan to kidnap the lady on the day of the wedding. He sent her to the location of the migrating fish that night for her to witness them, after which he sent her off down the river to her home. The girl disappeared as soon as she passed a barrier. She found herself back in heaven in her original form. It is revealed that the woman was one of the gods, and she was the woman no one fell for. The egg started to hatch as she held it with care. Milan later heard of a Holy Alliance tournament being held in the Beast Kingdom because one of the prizes was the Crystal Eye relic. It had the ability to restore vision to the blind. Bai is the one in charge of the relic, and revealed that it could also detect the pulse frequency of the Quiba anywhere in the world when 4 or more of his chakra paths are open. Bai didn't bother to send representatives from his kingdom to participate because he was sure that the Lionel family would cheat since they are the host. The winner of the competition will also act as an envoy for the Alliance and would play a significant role during their fight against the Quiba. Meanwhile, Milan finally arrived at the venue, but he didn't have the emblem needed to show he was a participant. The guards prepared to apprehend him as they thought that he stole his invitation, but Soi intervened and took Milan in as his guest. The lad thanked him for coming to his aid again. Soi informed him that it was impossible for him to participate without an emblem. Since he couldn't compete, Milan wanted to fight Soi if the guy won the competition. Milan was later approached by some participants from the Lionel clan. They challenged him to a fight thinking he was also a competitor. Their goal was to eliminate as much of the competition outside the ring so that their main guy Jing can have an easy ride to the finals. They mocked Milan because he could only use 2 of his chakra paths. All the while, Bai and his assistant were on their way back from a meeting and witnessed Milan deal with his attackers with ease. The beaten men quickly retreated and confessed that they underestimated him. Bai started a conversation with Milan when he guessed that his master was blind. The lad was shocked and wanted to know how he knew this. The king revealed that he noticed that the lad's body reacted to the attacks before his eyes registered what was going on. From that analysis, Milan could see that the old man was a master himself. Bai downplayed his skill and quickly changed the topic back to Milan when he assumed that the lad had come to get his hands on the crystal eye because of his blind master. The king revealed that he had a brother who was also blind. They were both oblivious to the fact that they are talking about the same person. Milan just wanted Zhao to see the world and assumed that Bai wanted the same for his brother, so he offered to let the king borrow the crystal when he attained it. Their conversation is interrupted when Soi dashed past them as he fought off his attackers. Milan excused himself and followed them. He arrived to meet 3 high-level fighters beating Soi down. They escaped as soon as their damage was done. Milan was informed of the Lionel family's cheating plan, so he decided to help Soi under the condition that he would lend him the crystal eye if he won. He healed his arm first and planned to use the fact that it was hurt to their advantage. The enemy would still think it's injured, so Milan had him practice how to fight with that injured, weaker arm. Soi fought his way to the finals where he was to face Jing. During the announcements, the king of the Beast Kingdom teased Bai for not bringing participants, but Bai let him know that he had his best men guard the crystal eye. Soi kept the pretense that his arm was injured by wrapping it up. We come to know that the weapon that Jin was using was a national treasure. Soi stepped out onto the arena. Jin couldn't believe how weak the other fighters must have been to allow an injured warrior to get to the final. He didn't hold back because his opponent is injured and attacked with vim, so he managed to fend off the assault, but he knew that he had to use speed to force Jing to make a mistake. He went on the offensive and was able to cut one of Jing's eyes. This irritated the favorite, prompting him to unleash his power. Jing started to swing wildly. Soi was able to narrowly block, but his blade got broken in the process, and he got knocked back. Jing arrogantly came in to finish him off, but Soi skillfully dodged and landed a chakra-infused counterpunch with his bandaged hand. Jing was sent crashing into a pillar. Soi picked up his broken blade and made him yield when he broke the pillar with a strike near his neck. Everyone was stunned to see such power. It turns out that the bandage arm was in fact his dominant hand, and it was not injured. The guy was fighting with his healed, injured, weaker arm that whole time. Millen's plan was to have them disregard his bandaged arm so that he could use it at the last minute to blindside this opponent in the final. Soi was announced as the victor, and given the honor of being the envoy for the alliance. He kept his word and lent Millen the crystal eye to use on Zhao. He waved Millen goodbye as his ship sailed away. Bai caught his attention, so Millen said goodbye to him too. Someone on board informed him that Bai is the king of the Dragon Country and the leader of the Holy Alliance. He repeated Bai's full name like he had heard it somewhere before. While Millen was away, Chi Heng-san tried to restore Zhao's vision using his own means. After the procedure, the prince could now perceive light, and he couldn't wait to have even more meaningful interactions with Millen. Someone came with an invitation from Gusita, which called for the remaining village chiefs to meet at a neutral place to discuss the unification of Lingshan. The chiefs would be the only ones allowed to enter the meeting room, and Chi Heng-san didn't like the sound of that. He worried that the other chiefs might be working together against Zhao, since he currently held the most power. However, Zhao saw this as a fair request, as this rule applied to everyone. He perceived it as an opportunity to win over the remaining big villages, instead of defeating them on the battlefield. Accompanied by Chi Heng-san and Yehuya, they arrived at the meeting place. The subordinates were told to wait outside while the prince proceeded. His spear and coat were taken just before he entered to meet his peers. He could smell top-quality incense being burned, so had hopes that this group of leaders would be more sophisticated rather than being simple-minded. Gusita was among the group, and he brought a rare dodo bird which acted as an icebreaker. Their discussion about the bird ended when a young lady brought the main dish of the banquet. Gusita opened it to reveal an empty plate. He explained that the main dish is normally the boss's favorite. It had been left empty because the leader of the unification had not yet been decided. The dish would be served as soon as that issue was resolved. Gusita proposed himself to be the leader, but Zhao also showed his intention for the position. Gusita got more brazen when he served his dodo bird on the boss's plate. He wanted to show that he's the kind of leader that could deliver what most people don't expect. Zhao was happy to hear that the other big chiefs wanted to unify, as it was their only way to escape the Holy Alliance's oppression toward them. The prince was curious to hear what Gusita's plan would be if he were to take over. The guy revealed that he would negotiate with the Holy Alliance. Zhao didn't think that they could have good faith discussion with people who have shunned them. The other chiefs agreed. Gusita revealed that the alliance sent a special envoy to him in hopes that they could reach a settlement. Everyone was surprised to hear that he had already negotiated terms with the alliance. They would be allowed to stay in Lingshan in peace, but would have to accept some oversight from the Union. The other chiefs were sure that this deal would give the alliance time to prepare before destroying them out in the future. The land of Lingshan is vast, and Zhao was sure that they would come for it. He suggested that they unite and fight for the security. The chiefs agreed and have lost trust in Gusita for contacting the alliance without their knowledge. He could see that things had turned against him, so he played his trump card. He revealed a personal letter he got from Bai, which disclosed Zhao's identity. Meanwhile, outside, Yehuya made it clear that he would follow whoever is chosen to be the boss. One of the other subordinates told him of who Zhao really was, since the rumor had already started to spread. Chi Heng-san joined them and was also told of the breaking news. Back in the tent, the chiefs were stunned that Zhao was the brother of the alliance leader. Some assumed that he was already part of the enemy, but they had all heard of his legendary skills and feats. Zhao pointed out the secluded life he had lived all these years and asked them if they truly thought this would be a reasonable plan if he was really working with his older brother. The others started to think that this letter was only brought forward to make them doubt Zhao. After looking at the situation, the chiefs decided to make Zhao their leader. Gusita also submitted, but he wanted the prince to drink an old medicine that would limit his chakra ability because he was just so much stronger than them. This would give them further peace of mind given his background. Zhao could understand their worry, so agreed to take the medicine. He just hoped that they don't betray him. As soon as he took it, Gusita begun the next part of his plan and revealed that Zhao had formed a pact with the Quiba to conquer the world. He also identified Millen as the Quiba and how the prince raised him. Zhao could not believe that he underestimated his opponent's underhandedness again. Gusita brought the special envoy of the Holy Alliance to confirm his claim. He let the other leaders know that they would be wiped out if they aligned with the Quiba. Zhao wanted to know how much information they had on the Quiba and Milan. Kusita told him that the only thing they care about was eliminating the demon from their world. The chief started to withdraw their support for Zhao after hearing this, because they didn't want to anger the gods. Kusita suggested that they hand over Milan to the Alliance and save themselves. A flashback played of Chi Hengsan warning Zhao not to use too much chakra during the treatment period, otherwise it would cause serious damage to his body. Currently, the chiefs enjoyed their feast after choosing Kusita as the boss and deciding to capture Milan and hand him over to the Alliance. Zhao forced his chakra path open despite the warning. As his eyes bled, he eliminated the other chiefs for their betrayal and burned the hut down. Ji Hengsan prepared to give canon support, but he stopped when Zhao came out the victor, who was now the new and only boss of Lingshan. Milan later arrived with the crystal eye and was stunned to see that Zhao's eyes had gotten worse in his absence. The other kingdoms have heard about Zhao's rise to power. Commander Yang of the Beast Nation cleaned his family's emblem weapon in preparation for war. He's not intimidated by the legends of Zhao because he's now an old blind man. The fact that the Quiba is part of this army made him happy because he had the chance to go down in history as the one who defeated the demon. He told his subordinate to start thinking of epic titles for him. Later, the Beast King held a war meeting when he got word that Zhao and his men were on the move towards them. Jin suggested that they let them pass since their main target was the Dragon Nation. One of the elders didn't think that would be possible. Since the Quiba is among Zhao's men, they must at least attempt to stop them as members of the Alliance. Otherwise, their nation would be punished by the gods. Yang made his late appearance to the meeting. Some of the officials called him arrogant for bringing his weapon to the royal hall. The king put Yang in charge of engaging Zhao and his men. He advised the commander to eliminate the blind prince as quickly as possible to increase their chances of victory. Yang took it into consideration and left to prepare. All the while, Zhao was visited by a messenger from the Winged clan. Chi Hengsan read the letter which praised Zhao out loud and made it seem like the king had no hostile plans towards the prince and his army. Zhao also informed the messenger that they would pass through the Beast Kingdom territory as quickly and with as little disturbance as possible. The emissary left with the promise to pass his message on. Milan understood the letter as a polite way of the Beast Nation, telling them to leave their lands as soon as possible. Zhao revealed that the king wanted them to feel at ease as they passed through so that they could attack when their guard was down. It would take the army 60 days to go through the country at full speed. Zhao recalled Yang's father and his weapon during the previous war. Chi Hengsan informed him that the son is now a commander and wields that same weapon. It is explained to Milan that the emblem weapons are made with ancient materials. It's able to use the wielder's chakra to deal more damage. The prince warned Milan to be prepared to face such a foe, but his lecture was cut short when he collapsed. Jin was monitoring the army's movement ready to attack at any moment, but he told one of his subordinates to report to Yang that the army had stopped due to Zhao's illness. The army set up camp, and the prince revealed he would need to rest for 7 days before he'd be fit enough to continue. Chi Hengsan didn't want to affect morale, so he told the men that their leader had an upset stomach and will be ready to move in 7 days. Turned out that this was all part of Milan's plan. They knew about the canyon ambush ahead of them. He wanted to take advantage of the situation. Jing and his men were forced to retreat after a few days because they ran out of supplies. He went back to the capital to protect the king and lied to himself that Yang would win the battle without him. This triggered Zhao to make his move. Yang prepared his men to meet them, and he was not surprised that Jing left. Milan attacked the retreating troops while Zhao clashed with the general down the mountain. The fighting was intense and raged on till day broke. The Linshan army were winning and prepared the final push to defeat Yang. Zhao and Milan cut their way through, but Yang refused to yield as he ruthlessly defeated the fodder. Sadly, his men didn't have the same vigor as they retreated. The commander got annoyed and took his frustrations out on the enemy. Milan confronted him to a duel which he accepted. The two matched evenly during their first clash till Yang activated his weapon and broke Milan's blade. The lad wasn't fazed and dashed in for more, but he was blown back by the overwhelming power of the ancient weapon. Milan unlocked more chakra paths and turned the tables quickly. He grabbed the commander by the neck like it's 50 shades of gray, which brought an end to the battle. Yang presented his emblem to Milan since he was the winner of the battle. The lad was confused, so Chi Hengsan stepped up to explain the emblem system. The loser of a duel must present his emblem at the disposal of the victor. It's illegal for the winner to keep them as a trophy since they are not transferable, so they must throw the emblem to the ground. This action prevents the loser from wearing his emblem in front of others. For a warrior, this is a fate worse than death. Milan didn't want to do that and handed Yang his emblem back. He told everyone that they didn't need to participate in such an act to prove that they are the victors. They all agreed. Millen then ordered Yang to be his commander. He threw his emblem to the ground and accepted his new position. The lad recovered after the battle, and it is revealed that he had opened 6 chakra paths during his duel. The prince gave him 3 days to rest. They needed to leave the Beast Nation as soon as possible now that Millen had awakened more power, meaning that the Alliance and the gods can easily track them. The king of the Beast Kingdom didn't send any troops to stop the Lingshan army, so they proceeded to the Tree Kingdom border uncontested. However, the army faced a bigger issue as they only had 3 days of food left. Some of the men were ill and fatigued due to poor nutrition, and they were at least days away from the Tree Kingdom. Millen was willing to head back to the Beast Nation to get some food, but Yehuya let him know that this would not be necessary. He had found a road that led to a village nearby, and was sure that they would find food there. Millen decided to go check it out alone, as he didn't want to arouse suspicion by moving in a unit. He suggested the army make camp and rest while they wait for him. Zhao told him to retreat if they refused to sell food to him. Millen arrived to find that the villagers were also rationing their food. He helped an old man and his granddaughter get a meal when they got bullied by the local muscle for not having emblems. The senior and kid were so grateful for the help. Millen's attention is drawn to Yehuya when he spotted him sneaking around the village. He followed and found him harassing the village chief for their food. The lad told him to stop, but Yehuya revealed that the chief had been capturing men in exchange for something to eat from the Holy Alliance. They offered the surrounding villages this deal when they learned the Lingshan army would be passing through the area. The village chief had vast food stores hidden somewhere from his consistent trade. He had been scamming the Alliance by using men without emblems and passing them off as members of the Lingshan army. People who don't have emblems are treated worse than animals. The chief tried to justify his action as a last resort to save his people. Yehuya just wanted the food and was willing to blow up the whole village to find it. Millen was against this, as it would hurt a lot of innocent people. Their little extortion session came to an end when Alliance soldiers surrounded them and demanded they come out. The grandpa from earlier called them when he saw Yehuya sneaking around. After an intense moment, Millen came out pretending to be the new village chief. He exposed the chief's scam. The official in charge was aware of it, but turned a blind eye because the fake arrests made him look good. He didn't want this fact to be exposed, so pretended to be deceived by the chief too. He wanted to arrest and punish the old man. The chief came out to plead his case, but the Alliance official cut him down to bury the conspiracy. Millen got annoyed by the brutality and confronted the official. He got the people of the village on his side with a speech about how the Lingshan army look to protect those who do not have emblems and are neglected by the system because of it. They stand up to the Alliance soldiers. Millen already moved Yehuya's bombs to locations that made it look like the village was surrounded by the army when detonated. The Alliance soldiers were forced to retreat. Millen found the food and shared some to the villagers who decided to head south for a better life. Millen and Yehuya go back to camp after securing some nourishment. They were ambushed by the Alliance forces who now had backup. The two were forced to retreat into the forest as arrows rained down on them. An emblem tower near the area was activated. The energy pulse released caused Millen to fall. Yehuya tried to help him up, but he was hit with some arrows. Millen got irate and unleashed his Quiba power. Meanwhile at camp, Zhao and Chihen-san discussed the Alliance's recent completion of more emblem towers. The blind prince was more worried about how this would affect Millen. As an additional measure, they would chart their path based on the location of the towers. Zhao had reason to be worried because he suddenly sensed Millen's Quiba powers after a pulse from the tower nearby. He gathered a unit and rushed to that location. As that was going on, the Alliance soldiers got annihilated by Millen. The officer tried to escape, but Millen caught him and pinned him to the ground. Yehuya used the last of his strength to try and stop the Quiba, but he was thrown away like a crash dummy. Chi-Heng-san launched an attack against the tower, just as Millen turned his attention to the terrified officer. He finished him off like a fatality from Mortal Kombat. Zhao and the others arrived to witness it. The blind prince rushed in and used elite chakra control to stop the manic lad from taking any more lives. The destruction of the emblem tower helped Zhao succeed. A flashback is triggered showing more of the training a younger Millen received and the strong bond he built with Zhao. The flashback ended when Millen is brought back to camp. The blind prince later sat Chung and Yang to tell them about his full history with Millen and his goal to help the lad control his power. Chung was against harboring Millen now that he knew that the lad was the Quiba. Yang was a little happy that he lost to the Quiba and not some random guy. This revelation has restored some of his inner pride. It is also disclosed that Yehuya lost his life from the arrow wound. Zhao saw the 3 men sat before him as his most trusted people, and asked them to help him implement the next stage of their plan. Zhao ordered Chung to write a letter to Bai requesting a meeting. After doing this, Chung went to Milan's tent and tried to eliminate him. The lad woke up in time and stopped the blade with his bare hands. Chung told him that he must die because he's the Quiba, and the world would be better off if he's not around. Milan released his grip on the blade. When visions of what happened confirm his real identity, Chung realized that the lad had surrendered to this fate. He recoiled the blade to finish him off, but Zhao interjected and rather slew Chung. The aide attested that his action was not out of betrayal, but he always saw the prince as the hope of the empire, so association to the Quiba would only have made things more complicated. Zhao made it clear that he only held a grudge against the gods who have deceived the inhabitants of Earth, which had led to Chung taking such actions. Yehuya and Chung are laid to rest next to one another. As they paid their respects, Chi Heng-sun told Zhao that Milan had left the army. This would put him in less danger. The prince was more focused on them making it to the Tree Kingdom as quickly as possible. Milan watched them from a distance before he went to a cliff to jump without a parachute. His self-exit is interrupted when his pretend lover came out of nowhere and bumped into him. They both fell off the cliff, but he used his body to soften her fall. He then dragged the unconscious lady out of the water and tried to perform CPR, but her mount kicked him in the head. She later regained consciousness, and it's revealed that her name is Mei. She got a little annoyed when he blamed her for the fall because she knew he was planning to jump anyway. The two proceed together, and the topic of the emblem system came up. Milan spoke about how unjust it was and only caused mortals to suffer. He wanted to help Zhao break this system. He then changed the topic to ask Mei where she was going. She informed him that she was going to visit a friend. Milan asked to join her in exchange for protection. He also hoped that the friend would cook for them. His wish came true as food was served upon their arrival. Everyone watched him eat many bowls of food. After the meal, no one offered to help with any work around the house since he was full. Mei's friend husband tasked him with cutting some firewood for them. The friends had their catch-up while the men worked. It's revealed that Mei's friend was pregnant and used to be a god. She gave it up to live with her mortal husband. She let Mei touch her belly and expressed how happy she was with her decision. The friend noticed that Mei liked Milan and explained that this feeling of love is one of the things that gave meaning to life. The lecture ended abruptly when the friend went into labor. Milan and the husband quickly brought an old lady to help with the birth. After some struggle, the little baby girl came out. Mei was moved when she got to hold her. The excited new father also came in to see his daughter. The old lady stated that the town would hold a celebration since it's been a long time since a child was born. The husband insisted that Mei and Milan join everyone at the square. They arrived to meet people eating, drinking, and dancing. The music became too infectious, so they joined in with the dancing. Mei and Milan had a moment when he prevented her from falling. She asked him about the girl he was looking for. Milan gave the description, and she realized that the woman he fell in love with was her in her god form. Since she also liked him, she stepped forward and transformed. Milan was ecstatic at the revelation, but this was short-lived when she revealed that she was a god. He didn't feel like he was worthy of her trust. It also didn't help that they are on opposing sides. Mei didn't see it that way, and felt like all this hostility was because people were dissatisfied with the current emblem system and the behavior it allowed those in power to practice. The acts of rebellion from the downtrodden of Lingshan should have made the leaders realize that the system needed to be optimized. The Quiba is also a factor that adds complexity to the issue. It is obvious that the Quiba's unstable power harms everything around it. However, Mei didn't think that this was intentional. She had been tracking the previous Quiba, and he went into hiding after the gods launched an aerial attack on him. She had the theory that the Quiba unleashed such power as a defense, since the world always wanted to eliminate them. Mei wanted to find the current Quiba and help him control his power to prove to the Alliance and the gods that he's not a threat. This would prevent the gods launching a war on the Quiba, which always destroyed large numbers of Earth's inhabitants. Milan noted that she was different from the other gods. As he prepared to leave, she gave him a device that would help him detect the Quiba if he was nearby. Milan took her hand as he rejected it. He revealed himself to be the Quiba by releasing enough power for the device to glow. Meanwhile, the Linshan army began their final march to the Tree Kingdom. They managed to hijack some merchant ships and used them to cross over to the Tree Nation. After landing, they attacked the capital city, but by this time the army had been out of food for several days, so their initial assault was ineffective. General Yang knew that it would be almost impossible to take the city if they allowed reinforcements to arrive. He requested that Zhao give him the remaining emergency rations and promised that they would have the city within 1 day. The blind prince had faith and gave him permission. The general gathered the men and presented them with a feast. He let them know that it was theirs if they took the city. He got them even more riled up when he pointed out how the soldiers in the city are replenishing themselves while they starve. The army picked up their weapons, driven by the primal instinct of satiating their hunger, and took down the city by the time the sun came up. The general only had 2 requests for the defeated. All the emblems had to be collected, and the second was to supply the food needed by the army. The emissary was surprised to learn that their invaders were not staying for long. The men ate meat and drank their fill after winning such a difficult battle. The rest of the city resumed life as usual. All Zhao wanted was for the king to prevent the Holy Alliance from sending reinforcements since the battle was over. The Tree Monarch didn't see a problem with this, as he still retained his power. All he lost were the emblems and some food. He also knew that the army would be out of his hair soon, because everyone knew they were headed to the Dragon Kingdom. Yang even came to see him to get assurance that they would be allowed to reach the border of the Dragon Kingdom without issue. As a member of the alliance, the monarch worried that letting them pass without resistance would incur the wrath of the gods. Zhao had a proposal to prevent this. The general handed the monarch a letter, which he presented during the next alliance meeting with the gods. It read that the blind prince expressed his intention to pass through the Tree Nation without further incident and requested to meet with Bai. The Wing Kingdom monarch named Neng expressed his suspicion that the alliance leader's brother managed to escape and raise such an army against them. This is quickly put down by the others. Bai decided to allow the army to the border so that they could meet. He intended to only allow Zhao into the Dragon Kingdom. The rest of the army will be disbanded and sent back to their places of origin. One of the gods, called Yan Shuo, felt like they needed to act and attack the Lingshan army for the infractions they had committed so far and their rumored association to the Qiba. Mei put an end to this suggestion when she reported that she found no signs of Qiba near the army when she did her investigation. Bai also reminded the gods that they are not to attack Earth if the Qiba's appearance had not been confirmed. As leader of the alliance, he asked them to allow him to handle the situation. If negotiations with Zhao failed, he promised to fight with the entire might of the Dragon Kingdom. The god Jing ended the meeting expecting good news. Yan Shuo later secretly met up with Neng, where he was told by the monarch that the letter sent by Zhao had hidden information meant for Bai relating to the Qiba. Neng sent investigators and learned that the Qiba had left the Lingshan army. His people were looking for his current location, but he had no news yet. The Wing Monarch and Yan Shuo agreed that this was enough to show collusion between the brothers. They wanted to get rid of them and install Neng as the new alliance leader. They planned to eliminate the brothers when they meet in 3 days. All the while, Millen snuck into the Tree Nation, but he got spotted and had to knock out a guard. His colleagues later helped him up, and he noticed them holding a wanted poster of Millen stating that he's the Qiba. The knocked-out guard reported that he was the one who infiltrated their country. Meanwhile, Zhao met with the Tree Monarch, who happened to be an old friend. They had a little catch-up, and the blind prince is told that they will be allowed to pass. Back at the Dragon Kingdom, Bai prepared his next move, and his wife hugged him upset about what was about to transpire. A flashback showed more details about Zhao and Bai's upbringing. They were both high-level fighters who pushed each other through practice. As they grew, Zhao saw the faults of the emblem system, but excelled through the ranks to be chosen as the alliance leader. During a meeting with the gods on how to deal with the Qiba if he appeared, Zhao challenged the gods regarding their lack of care for earthling life, as they were willing to sacrifice so many people just to destroy the demon. He also voiced the injustice of the emblem system. This led to his harsh punishment, but it's revealed that Bai was initially against the treatment of his brother. Yan Shuo dismissed his concerns, and he was made to fall in line. Bai still loved his brother, so he planned with Chang to have Zhao escape during his inauguration parade. The flashback ended with the Lingshan army at the Dragon Kingdom border. A man named Soyi, who was now officially envoy of the alliance, came instead of Bai. He presented a letter written by Bai and insisted to read it. Bai stated that he only took the throne because he believed he could protect Zhao better from there. Sending assassins he knew were not a challenge was all part of this protection. He never wanted to fight, but Zhao's recent actions has forced him to act. Bai removed his crown and went to a room filled with pictures of him and his brother to have one last look. In the letter, he stated that he would entrust their country and the world to Zhao to make it a better place. He could now see that the current system was too unjust. He wrote his final goodbye to Zhao and gave him the sword of the Dragon Kingdom. Everyone was stunned by the contents of the letter. So he revealed that all soldiers in the nation will obey the orders of the person holding it. Meanwhile, Bai went to the tower to confront Yan Shuo, but the king was defeated easily. He expressed his regret for not standing by his brother when he needed him most. As a last act to his nation, he blew up the country's tower that allowed travel to the heavens. The explosion was seen by all. Zhao collapsed after being hit with such bombshell information. Millen was getting chased through the forest by the border guards now that his identity had been exposed. A masked man suddenly smashed him into the trees, which caused the guards to lose sight of him, but they continued to scan the area. Millen got in a defensive stance as he demanded to know who his helper was. The guy removed his mask to reveal himself to be Soyi. The special envoy updated him on the situation and on Zhao's poor health, so Millen quickly rushed to his side. The blind prince was not in a lucid state and was waffling, but he regained some consciousness when he heard Millen blaming himself. Zhao let the lad know that it wasn't because of him, because all this was caused by his own hands. The prince thought that Millen would only be safe if he defeated the gods in the alliance, but he has now started to feel like things would have been better if they lived their simple life in the cabin. The fact that he misread his late brother's intention toward him has made him question everything. He just wanted to prove to Bai that his vision was right. Both brothers lost themselves in the process, and Zhao didn't want this for Millen, so he gave him the choice on how he wanted them to proceed. Millen came out of the room and is introduced to Luomu, who told the lad that he was the only one who could save Zhao. Millen got confused when Luomu wanted to play a game of chess and promised that he would have an answer on what to do after the game. Luomu explained the rules to him, and as they played, he revealed that his shop apprentice inspired him to want to play a game of chess with the Quiba. The help's name was Shaolin, and was the most important person Luomu had met in his life. Shaolin had a low status without any education, but he was hardworking and helped Luomu grow his business. One of his competitors who had connections got jealous of their success and wanted to buy the shop by any means. He brought the police to destroy the shop when Luomu refused to sell. This led to a fight where Luomu accidentally eliminated the competitor. Shaolin took the fall despite being innocent. Luomu felt guilty and tried to free him by bribing one of the officers with all his savings. The amount was too small, and the competitor's people had already sent men to beat up Shaolin. The police station suddenly exploded, and Luomu was surprised to see that Shaolin was a Quiba. The guy unleashed his power in order to protect himself from his attackers. He didn't care and wanted to escape with his apprentice, but Shaolin used his powers to create a portal and send his boss through it. Luomu was sent 300 years into the future, which was this current timeline. The merchant was initially confused, but he collected all information related to the Quiba in an attempt to try and understand what happened. What he concluded was that the Quiba can access a source of power that even the gods aren't able to, and it controls not only space but time. He's glad that he was able to meet Millen. He let the lad know that all suffering is brought by the gods and the emblem system, and not the Quiba. From his research, he believed that the Quiba was an abnormal life form with extraordinary abilities because he's born without parents. The gods feared that such a being that has no ties to their system would become a natural destroyer of it, so they made him into a demon that needed to be eliminated, even if the Quiba was good. Luomu told Millen that he is the only one who has the power to change things, so he can use it for good or evil, but he has a right to exist, just like everyone. Millen made his mind up after learning this key information. He gathered the army and gave those who were worried about his identity a chance to leave. He promised to fight to eradicate all injustice and prejudice with the ones who decided to stay. All the men remained enchanted, ready to fight for such a goal. Their army's next destination was the Dragon Valley to give Zhao a homecoming to remember. After a short rest, they marched forward, and Yang told Millen of Zhao's intention to make him leader on this expedition. The lad didn't think this was necessary since the blind prince was getting better. The general explained that the dragon people would have a positive opinion of the Quiba if it was made to look like Millen fought for justice for Zhao and brought him back to his country. The lad agreed and opened to Yang about his relationship with his adopted father, and the general appreciated the insight. Soon after they arrived at Dragon Valley, they are greeted by the elders of the clan, and some are surprised by how normal the Quiba appeared. Yang only requested that they give up on the emblem system and there will be no trouble. The elder revealed that they had abandoned that system long ago. They were grateful that Millen had brought Zhao back. The old man revealed that they only later learnt that Zhao was not a traitor, but rather challenged the gods out of concern for them. The blind prince listened from his carriage as his tribesmen expressed their regret, but their love and respect for him was at an all-time high. Millen was so happy to hear this. The leader of the Karashok family was willing to accept Zhao back, but their family's mission was to eliminate the Quiba. He couldn't let Millen just pass without a fight. The lad accepted the challenge but requested they fight the following day. That night, the heads of the Lingshan army gathered to plan their next move. Zhao was relieved to hear that they will not be fighting his people. Instead, they would move under the cover of darkness and take a detour through the Yangtze Desert. This will allow them to bypass the Karashok army and re-enter the Dragon Kingdom from another point. The sandstorms in the desert would also prevent the Alliance from sending their airships after them. Elsewhere, Nung reported the upcoming battle between the Lingshan army and the Karashok family to Yan Shuo, but the god didn't think Zhao would fight his own people. He rightly anticipated that the army would pass through the Yangji Desert because the Alliance ships couldn't follow them. He ordered Ning to go finish them off at that location. The Wing Monarch was a little worried since he would be facing the legendary prince and the Qiba. Yan Shuo informed him that the Qiba would be weakened in the desert. He also gave Ning a gem that would boost his chakra levels to the same rank as the Qiba. He promised he would be the most powerful monarch in the world, and the hero who destroyed the Qiba. The army struggled through the sandstorm when Ning and his men ambushed them from the skies. Zhao was moved to safety since he was still recovering, while Milin and Yang launched their counterattack that defeated most of the enemy. Ning spotted Milin and decided to tear through the army before getting to him. The two had a few exchanges, but the monarch had the upper hand. He pinned a lad to the wall and commented on how disappointing the Qiba's strength was. Zhao interjected by throwing his spear just as the Wing Monarch was about to finish Milin off. The lad retrieved the spear and used it to attack. He was a lot more competitive as he traded blows with Ning. He even ended up pinning him to the ground and asked the monarch to surrender. Ning tried to provoke him to land the finishing strike so that the world could see the evil of the Qiba. Milin refused, so the monarch freed himself and used the gemstone given to him by the god. He got a significant power-up which caused him to grow more wings. He regained the advantage and brought Milin to his knees with a few attacks. Zhao rushed in and cut his arm before he could use the spear to slay his boy. Meng used his new power to regenerate his arm and confidently took on both the Qiba and the prince. He used his feathers to pin Milin to the wall and fired a power blast at the lad. Zhao dashed in front to stop it, but he was overpowered. His blade shattered, causing him to take damage from the blast. Milin lost control and unleashed his Qiba powers. He quickly beat down Ning and was about to finish him off, but Zhao's call calmed him down. Milin hurried over to his injured adopted father. This gave Ning the chance to escape. Zhao opened the rest of Milin's chakra points with the belief that he would be able to control it. He said an emotional goodbye just before succumbing to his wounds. Milin let out a cry of pain. He carried Zhao's body to the gates of Glory City. They were greeted by the leader of the Karashok family, who had stepped down after hearing the news. Milin insisted to be the one to carry his adopted father to his final resting place. He was granted that honor, but the rest of the Lingshan army were prevented from entering. The people of the city came out to mourn as he passed through the streets with their prince. Milin placed him in the clear coffin where he was lowered into a chamber. As that was going on, the gods deliberated on whether to strike the dragon capital now that the Qiba had arrived there. Mei was against this. She pointed out how this would be a betrayal to the beings on Earth since the towers were built to strengthen the relationships between the two worlds. Yan Shuo didn't care about all of that, because they couldn't afford the Qiba's influence to spread. He thought that Mei was being too emotional. The others agreed and voted in favor to use the towers to help guide their attack. Mei stormed out and went straight to Milin to warn him of the danger that his presence posed to the city. The other gods are alerted of her trip to Earth, so Yan Shuo dropped down and confronted her about her action. Milin told him to leave her alone and concentrate on him since he's their target. He dashed in, but his first assault is a failure as he got blown back. Yan Shuo went on the offensive, but Milin managed to block and counter with a punch, and he was surprised by his own power. He recalled that all his paths had been opened. The god was impressed, so increased the intensity of his attacks. Milin skillfully evaded it, but the debris injured the city residents. His will to protect people allowed him to erect a pulse field around those in harm's way. He then used this refined control of his power to land an epic combo on Yan Shuo, which sent him crashing into the tower. Ji Hengsan came over to make sure Milin was fine, and he informed the lad that everyone had evacuated. However, he insisted to stay because Zhao had put Milin in his care now. The towers started to gather energy, so Yan Shuo and Mei were pulled back to heaven. The main tower absorbed the power from the smaller ones around the world. The pulse frequency caused Milin distress. All residents of the world watched on with worry. The energy was sent up to the weapon in the heavens, which converted and fired it at Milin. The lad manifested a giant form which he used to repel the attack upward with all his might. The blowback destroyed all the towers on Earth. Milin later regained consciousness with the help of Celestial Zhao. Everyone is relieved to see him awake. He later gathered trusted members of the army and informed them that they needed to split for a while. He planned to head west to gather some information relating to his power, but he wanted those who still wanted to fight to meet him at Moku Valley when the time was right. Yang agreed that splitting would make his travel a lot easier. Milin thanked Ji Hengsan for all his support. The arms dealer gave him Zhao's spear to use on his journey. Millen walked into the sunset as they promised to meet him at the valley whenever he calls.